there'll be more public hearings on this.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Judd Heinzer, 1739 Howard. When we were out there last month, I had questioned about the power lines buried. So if a homeowner wants it buried, because the power line comes from across the street to our house, if the homeowner wants that buried, you have to work with Xcel Energy then?
Yeah, I would say that's true. If there's options that, talking with them directly and saying, hey, I want to bury the line that comes to my home, I think there are probably options out there. And we haven't had that on other recent projects, so I think it's a good question, and we can put you in contact with the person we talked to on that to help you so that you don't going through 4 or 5 different people and stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Russ Jurdy at 4845 Independence Street. And the only thing I'm concerned about is you've got a 26-foot wide street here now. Is Howard Avenue going to be 26 feet also?
That's what it's proposed to be at this time is, yes,
Okay.
26 feet.
My question is up here where you got 74 feet of frontage for $8,500.
Yes.
Okay. I have an empty lot, 73 feet wide, for $15,000.
And I think that's because if you see here if you're looking at 1784 Howard, that property doesn't have any, I think the sewer, is 1784 maybe right in the corner of Howard and Drake, I'm thinking. But there are some properties that are served off of the sewer and water comes off of another street, and so that's why they are listed as 0 for a parcel, because there is no sewer and water. So I think that's what you're seeing. The difference is the sewer and water. If it had a 1 there, it would probably be in that range of the 15,172. Like if you go down 2 properties to 1764 Howard, you see it's the same 74 feet of adjusted frontage, and they have a 1 for a parcel. So their sewer and water comes off of Howard, but the one at 1784 doesn't. It gets served by another sewer and water line.
Okay. I understand that part of it. Now, question is another one. On my own property, the 87 feet here, and you figure the sewer and water there?
Yeah, so I think at this point in time, at least on the list, we are with your 2 properties where we have the 73 foot, the 87, that there's and I think we'd have to look back at the record plans that there was a sewer and water stubbed at one time, but if that's not a buildable lot, your second lot, that would be definitely something we look through prior to the construction. We wouldn't stub a sewer and water there unless you can build on that lot in the future. But in general, I think when we looked at it, there was a sewer and water service that was on the city's record plan stubbed to that vacant lot.
Okay. Also, on my own personal lot there for the house, my sewer comes off Main Street, not Independence.
Okay, maybe on that pipe that goes between Independence and Main Street East, that is feed off of. There's like a line that runs north and south between some properties, if that's what you're saying. But if you are getting your service line off of Main Street East
Yes,
to
I
your
am.
house, then there might be a record plan that showed a stub there. But if you're getting fed off of Main Street East, then we would remove that assessment from this project, because you would pay for that if Main Street East was reconstructed.
When I
So
built
think-
my house, there was no street. I had to build the street.
So
out.
that's where, there's a lot of history in this room tonight, I can see, and we appreciate that, because we kind of go off the city's record plans, but there's things like your situation that comes up, and we will make adjustments on that.
And also, I think on 35%, I think we're pretty high for a lot of these people that live down there in that category I'm talking about. Down here, okay, and Alice McPherson, and Howard Avenue, might you see, right here. So all these guys here, I think that 35% is a little high for the people that are living on that street. I'm talking about financially also. So, thank you.
Rob LaFavor at 4881 Independence Street. First thing is, I'd like to keep the width at 26. From what I heard tonight, the only reason that we'd be widening it is for more parking. The question would be parking for who? Probably for the park. As we see now, the park is becoming increasingly more important, so the parking is coming up the street right now. So that would only increase that access to parking to the park by making it wider. The other thing I'd like to say about the keeping the width the way it is right now, if you widen it out, then it's going to be more of a freeway right now than it is. We have a tremendous problem with speed on that road.
Yes.
Yes.
And it's not,
And a lot of them are coming to this school.
yes, they are.
Yes.
Or they're going to the light. And God bless Steve James when he was still alive and lived across the street from me. He'd go out and yell at him and slow him down because no one wanted to mess with him.
And I've reported it to the police. I can't.
They don't do anything.
No.
They don't do a darn thing. Now, we got
Other
some,
kids are gonna get killed before.
we have some
something
new,
happens.
yeah, just down from us, we have a new family with some young kids and they're all out in the street. Someone's gonna get killed because they're just roaring down that street.
Stop sign, no mean meetings, just go right through it.
Well, which stop sign?
Right on Howard and Independence.
Right, that. And I mean, you could put one on Perkins to slow this, the freeway down, but it's dangerous. It is extremely dangerous. And as far as the sidewalk goes, even though I wouldn't be affected because I'm on the south side, I wouldn't be in favor of the sidewalk either, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Streeter, 1645 Howard Avenue. A couple questions. Would anybody put together a survey to actually mail out to each resident that's affected by this? Because a lot of people wouldn't be here at these meetings, but would want to be able to have a say in a sidewalk or no. Has there been a discussion about actually putting out a survey so we could check it off and send it back to you so you know everybody's thoughts about this, other than the few people that are here?
Vote Democratic.
It's not something that we've done at this time. I think part of the reason why we have the public hearing is to try and get people in here to share that impact. I think having everyone here tonight holds a lot of value in terms of the emotion in the room that you can capture. But that's something that is a very good suggestion and something that we'll have to evaluate and see if we can do something like that.
The other question, when you're in your planning stage, at what point is it that you really want to hear from us about the plans, our input? If you already come up with a plan and say, this is what we're tentatively thinking of doing, and we say, no, we like this, we want this, is your plan already going in motion and you already got the bids out, so this is pretty much what we're going to do? Or do you want to hear stuff like right tonight or at the next meeting? I don't understand, like, when you want the input down.
Well, I think that neighborhood walkthrough, and I know we looked at some of the parts of your property where you talked about the drainage issues and where water kind of runs across the driveway. And so I mean, that was good feedback that we had from that meeting. I think the council has looked at it at different times. What I anticipated, if we go back to that schedule, where we would look at bringing back plans at the February 26th meeting, that we'd look at sometime in January where we'd have maybe another open house where we lay the plans out on tables and then have people kind of look at it, and we can look at, have our design team look at specific properties and say, here's how we're handling that drainage along your property. We're putting catch basins here and the curb and gutter. So I'm thinking that's just a good process that the city has done in the past, that it would be probably sometime in January, and you'd have a notice that the city staff would mail out to property owners on that at that time.
And that would allow for time to change the plans as needed with the suggestions made?
Correct, and we'd probably, we get those suggestions and we try to bring it back to the council to kind of say, here's kind of some of the feedback that we got. Many of them were able to make it to some of those neighborhood walkthrough meetings, and some of the council will try to be maybe at that open meeting where we talk about the plans. So, right, there would be enough time then to make adjustments.
Okay. And then last thing is, there were some residents at the cul-de-sac at the end of Howard on the north side where people did not like the curb and gutter on the driveway, because as you go up the driveway, it's just a big bump every single time they go up it, and I don't want that on my driveway. So I don't know at what point you want to hear that, or when you make that decision. And maybe my driveway is different than other people's driveway because of my problem with that.
Yeah, usually with the surmountable curb, I mean, that is a complaint, is that it's usually a 4-inch high back of curb. When you actually start with a 6-inch curb and then drop it down at a driveway, it's usually like a 2-inch lip, and so it is a more natural pull-in from the existing street. So it probably reminds you a little bit more of what you have right now, where there's no curb and gutter. It's a little more, not such a abrupt change. And so I think that feedback tonight will help the council as they make a decision on that, prior to us kind of laying out all the curb and gutter. So I think that's good feedback for the council.
Were you thinking of putting asphalt or concrete from the street in, like, whatever, 6 feet, 8 feet?
Yeah, so if you look at Bud and Main and Rainbow, there's a 5-foot concrete apron that is put in at all driveways. So if you have a bituminous driveway right now or an asphalt driveway, we'd have a 5-foot piece of concrete right next to the curb. If it's a gravel, you would have a 5-foot piece of concrete next to the curb. So we are looking at doing concrete aprons at all driveways, whether they're concrete now or bituminous or gravel.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm John Farrell, 1755 Howard Avenue. I got a couple quick comments and some questions. First, I'd like to reiterate that Independence is kind of an interstate, and the four-way stop at Independence and Howard is merely a suggestion most mornings. It's pretty insane. You talked about the state statute and following that, and I saw in your letter that the state statute is 20% requirement, but we're being assessed at 35%. Why is there that 15% increase? Because that makes a big difference.
Sure. Well, there's a couple of things there. One, historically, at the projects that we've done, Maple Plain has tried to keep as close to 35% as we can. But again, that state statute does come into play, because in order to be able to assess 35%, you need to make sure that there's 35% of value added to the property. And so the 20% is not statute mandated as much as it is bonding. So when we bond for a project, there are requirements for us to bond. And that requirement is, if the city does do assessments, which we do, we have to collect 20% in assessments at the minimum. But for previous projects that we've done, I know we've tried on Bud Avenue, And on Maple Plain, or Main Street West, that's kind of been our benchmark that we've used as a
Okay.
city.
Then the the payments over 10 or 20 years, that would be more of an annual payment than a principal payment. Is that right?
Yeah, there'd be 2 payments a year when you'd get your property
No, no.
taxes.
I mean, an annual payment, so it'd be the same amount every year versus a principal payment, which would be more like a mortgage where your principal goes down and your interest is probably a little more accelerated in a principal payment.
Yep. From my understanding, that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, there is,
Which one?
I mean, there is interest on the principal that's being charged. And so I think when it comes time to where we show, actually pick a final assessment, I mean, then we usually have, the county helps the city and they do a run that says, okay, if your assessment is, say, $15,000 and it's over 20 years, here's what your payment will be per year.
So you give an amortization
Yeah.
schedule.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's something we don't give that out directly to everyone, but the county helps the city and they have a program that kind of, we can say, okay, here's what it would be. So if someone has a question, the county sends us this little spreadsheet and we can put it in there and tell you directly what yours would be. And
Okay. I'm guessing then it gets reduced a little bit with each year. So it'd be more of a principal payment.
Right, and then some people will, I mean, they might not pay it off right away, but even if it's 20 years, they might say, well, I'm going to pay this off in 10 years and, give a little, just like on a mortgage, you give a little extra. And
On their surmountable curbs, if you have an existing driveway, they're not going to tear up the end of our driveway, are they?
If
I just put in a very nice driveway. I don't want to
I saw, I think on the
So my
walk, I
neighbors-
think was there one concrete driveway that was very, that's your driveway.
Probably.
Yeah, there's-
And our neighbors across the street put in a very nice driveway, very similar.
I mean, and what we'll do when we're laying out so you have to put a curb and gutter in, and so you have to, what we try to do on certain driveways, especially ones that it works out from a drainage standpoint, is try to match the driveway as best we can. But yeah, until we do that design, I know that sounds like a good thing that we could review at that meeting in January to say, okay, here's how it works to keep drainage going north and south, because you're in Howard, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
1750.
I do remember that was a nice driveway.
It's a lot of shoveling.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the road closing. We've got 3 kids, school bus, getting in with their groceries and so forth. How closed down? Will the school buses still come through? I know it's mostly during the summer, but you say it goes into September, and I would assume that things go a little longer sometimes.
Right. If there are issues, we do work with the school district and identify, where things are at. If all of a sudden, it starts in May and it's not done by the time school starts, we contact their busing supervisor, and then we work out where there might be a pickup spot. Usually by the time we're at that stage, if it starts in May, or in June, usually we're to the point where there is gravel on the road and buses can get up and down the street. It's that time when they're putting in the sanitary sewer and the water and the storm sewer, and they're digging those holes where it's, it's definitely an inconvenience for a property owner. We hope we don't have to do this again for another 30 or 40 years. And so you live through it once. And some people have been here around long enough, and they say, we lived through this once before, and now you're making us live through it. But yeah, there definitely is, when they're digging the pipe, there's inconveniences. They do backfill at the end of every day, and so there's, if it's not a wet day, usually you can drive up on that, on the soil and get up to your driveway. But if it's a rainy day, we had that in 2014 when we were working on Main Street West and Rainbow, and it was just, with the existing clay soils, and a contractor was working every day to get things done. But if it rains, it just becomes a very difficult.
Where would we park then at the street? Where is it?
Yeah,
needed
so
to
we
be
would have
closed?
to, I mean, if you can't get to your house, then we have to park on one other street in the city. And so we'll talk with Public Works and city staff and have, before the construction starts, if the project proceeds, we'll work with the contractor on their schedule, and then we'll have like weekly updates to residents and saying, okay, the contractor's going to be on your street this week. We'd recommend people park in this part of the city during that time.
And then one last quick comment is, I remodeled my house several years ago, and before doing that, it would have been a lot easier for us to move. And I really wanted to just buy a house, but the one thing that kept me on that street was the neighbors. We've got the police, we've got fire department, we've got teachers, librarians. It's just a great community. I would hate to see anyone forced out just due to the expenses. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak for the public hearing regarding the neighborhood feasibility study? Anyone else to speak for the neighborhood? Is there anyone else who is here to speak tonight for the neighborhood feasibility study?
Hi, Don Johnson, 1669 Howard. I'm just wondering how you guys decide which contractors are going to get the job and to how big of an area. Do you guys look for contractors?
Yeah, so how it's done is the city advertises in these construction magazines that contractors kind of watch, and they also advertise in the local paper. So local contractors would see it in the local paper, but most contractors are following various construction trade journals, especially in the spring when projects are being advertised. And so the city takes bids on a project, and the city has talked a little bit. There's some other areas that they're going to include in this project to kind of make it a project that people are. I mean, this size project is something that people will be interested in bidding, and getting it out early in the winter time for bids before the spring and summer is, I think, a good avenue. And so we open up the bids, and whoever is the low bidder, the council will have a decision to make. Is that something that, is there any issues with that low bidder that they're aware of? If they're not, usually the project does go to the low bidder. They do have the opportunity, if all of a sudden the bids come in higher than what we estimated, we do an estimate at this feasibility stage, then we'll do another estimate when we bring the plans and specs back. The council can decide that, hey, this project came in at this amount, maybe we'll wait and combine it with another project at a later time. So there are several steps in the process that before the council actually decides to proceed. But in general, it's advertised in the local paper, advertised in construction bulletins.
Okay. I've also got some questions about quality of materials, particularly asphalt. And I noticed just out here when they did the mill right out here in front of this place a couple years ago. And after they did it, you guys were working on Bud, and you ran all the heavy equipment right down here on Independence. And it really tore up all the work that they just done on this road. And this road right in front here is all cracked up all the way across the road, and this was just done 2 years ago. And this asphalt is mostly asphalt. I don't know if there's much of any rock in it, which gives the asphalt its strength and makes it hold up over time. So my concern is, are we going to get decent asphalt with enough rock in it that it's going to be strong and hold up?
No, very good questions. The asphalt that the city has specified is asphalt that's MnDOT recommends for. MnDOT has like different classifications of asphalt, some for residential streets, some for commercial streets, some for highways. And so cities around the metro will follow that guidance. But we'll look through, there's different types of oil that can be used. There's some oils that are a little more expensive but give a road a little more flexibility to help with cracking. I think that's very good questions that you bring up, and I think we'll discuss that with the council when it comes time to to bidding the asphalt. That's kind of exciting to an engineer to have questions on asphalt so I should give you a quarter after the meeting, but no, we'll look at that, and you're right, definitely the council does want the street to last and not fall apart, and we follow MnDOT guidelines on asphalt.
Yeah. But what about why did they let these heavy equipment come in here and on this road? Why did they do that? Why didn't they route them around on 12 and bring them in on Bud?
Yeah, and I apologize. I guess when construction was going on Bud, I didn't remember that coming up as a concern, and that definitely when we look at haul routes, I think that'll be a discussion on, okay, as we're constructing on Howard and Independence, we'll maybe have that discussion with the council and say, okay, here was an issue that was brought up by one of the residents at this public hearing. Let's look at designating haul routes and avoiding streets that maybe were just and did you say it was a mill and overlay here on Independence when they were working on the work by the school here? But yeah, that definitely isn't something that usually the spring of the year is that time of the year when, heavy vehicles can cause major problems. The summertime, if it's not having some issues with subgrade issues, it usually can handle that because a road. But I mean, that's a very good point, and I think we'll talk about haul roads. And I apologize, but I don't remember it coming up with Bud, and maybe there are some property owners that called the city, but I apologize on that. I didn't remember hearing that, and that's definitely a good point.
Okay, thank you.
This is the last chance for anyone to speak tonight regarding the neighborhood feasibility study.
I don't want to speak, will this be available on the website, all these PowerPoint?
I can make this public for everyone on the website for sure. Yep.
All right, with that, I'm looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move we close the public hearing.
Moved by Councilmember DeLuca,
Second.
second by Councilmember Fay. Any further discussion? All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The public hearing is closed. At this time, I will be stepping away as mayor, and Councilmember DeLuca will be acting mayor. The next item for business revolves the fire department, and my husband is a firefighter.
At this point, we have a new business item of a potential increase to the city contribution to the fire relief. I would ask Ray McCoy, who's the president of the Fire Relief Board, to make a presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members, for this opportunity to kind of bring you up to date on our Relief Association and kind of what's happening with the fire department. 2014 and 15, we put together a feasibility study on our Relief Association and our lump sum payments out for the active firefighters. And the Relief Association members are active firefighters, and every year you have a successful year in the fire department, you get a credit on the Relief Association board or years of service. So what we're talking about is lump sum payments per year of service. So if you serve 20 years, you get the lump sum times 20 years, and that's your when you retire, and if you're over 50. As you know, last year we were here and asked for our second year of our our payment, and this will be our third year in that 5-year plan that was put together back in 14 and 15. So we're are requesting a $100 increase from $2,600 to $2,700 per year of service, and we had a trustee board meeting in November 20th, 2017. And our financial advisor, Par McKnight, was out and reviewed our portfolio and went through where we're at and compared that to our 5-year plan. I'm pleased to say that as of October 31st, our fund is $67,000 more than what was projected. And when we went through the $2,600 increase, we were at about 98, 99% funded. And currently, we're at 105% funded with our actual balance in our portfolio. So the trustee board on November 20th unanimously voted to recommend coming to the city council and asking for the approval of $100 per year from $2,600 to $2,700 per year of service effective January 2nd, 2018. With the projections that were laid out, that would bring us to 106% funded, and which would actually go up from what we are actually right now. As the president of the Maple Plain Fire Relief Association, I am respectfully requesting approval of this increase, and we are very thankful for your past support and your continued support of our firefighters. They're on call 24/7, and as Mayor Moss can attest to, fire calls don't come in scheduled. They just come in when most inopportune time, and they've done an excellent job and serving our community. So this is just a way that at the end of their careers, there is some retirement benefits there for them. And I don't know if you want me to get into the funding, different funding mechanisms that we use to fund a relief association, or if everybody kind of fully understands that. Any questions?
We also have our fire chief, Justin McCoy, sitting here. If council would have any questions of either the president of the Fire Relief Board or the chief of our fire department. If there are no questions, I would entertain at this point a motion regarding Resolution 17-1218-01.
Could I just make one comment? And I apologize, I didn't catch this because I didn't read the resolution before I was at your workshop. But on the second to the last paragraph, I'm wondering if that shouldn't be amended to, it has a whereas resolved, city approves an increase from 26 to 27 to the Relief Association. I think there should be, I wrote it out here, probably it's after the 2,700, it should be per year of service injected in there, because that's really what we're talking about, is a per year service, not a lump sum payment of $2,700 to the Relief Association.
Just a
thought.
clarification, it does specify that in the paragraph prior, so I don't know if that would be a repeat of information needed, or...
Yes, so that's up to your council. I just bring it to your attention. I didn't.
How does John feel about it? Did John draft this, John Thames?
Oh, no. I drafted this. I think if we're concerned about whether it would affect it or not, it's a simple change that I can make.
All right.
And we can add per year of service in there, and that's not an issue.
Well, I move we approve resolution 17-1218-01 with the suggested edits from firefighter McCoy.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second on, is there any further discussion on this?
Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Aye.
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Abstaining.
Let the record show that the resolution was passed 4-0 with 1 abstention. At this time, I will turn the meeting back over to our esteemed mayor.
Thank you very much.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to say thank you very much for your support and your continued input. I appreciate it very much. So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it goes without saying, but we're the lucky ones with the fire department and what you folks do for us.
Talk about timing.
We'll pretend it was the fire pager. All right, thank you. All right. Next item of business is Resolution 17-1218-02, the 2018 Final General Fund Budget.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Every year, the City Council has to put together a budget for the following year, and our fiscal year is from January through our December. It's a calendar year. We are required to submit a budget to Hennepin County by the end of September that are preliminary numbers. We have done that. As a result to that, we do need to approve final budget numbers for 2018. That is the purpose of this first resolution and the next two after it. This resolution is pertaining specifically to our general fund. How we got to this point is City Council did meet. We had 2 special meetings this summer and worked together and put together a budget where we could still provide the highest level of services while being fiscally very responsible. And I think as a result of our TNT meeting, it does show that our general fund does have a decrease of 2.56%. And as a result, the general fund is as follows for proposed 2018. Revenues at $1,656,399. Expenditures at $1,452,184. And other financing sources such as payment on our bonds for our capital improvement projects that we've been working on at $204,215. As a result of some of this information, I'd be happy to answer any questions from Mayor and City Council pertaining to our general fund proposed 2018 budget.
All right.
Well, I would move to approve resolution 17-12-1802, the 2018 final general fund budget.
Moved by Cahill. Is there a second?
Second from Fay.
Moved by Councilmember Fay. Any further discussion? All right.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Aye.
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0.
Next item of business is Resolution 17-1218-04, the 2018 Fire Department budget. Oh, whoops, sorry. Let's go back. Resolution 17-1218, or no, yeah, -03, the 2018 final tax levy.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This resolution is pertaining to our tax levy. Taxes this year have gone down. They went down as a result of the work that City Council did with staff this summer, and our preliminary numbers that we approved at the end of September that have not changed till this point. Our tax levy is going down 0.64%. You can see here, I list the general fund, the EDA, and the debt service. The general fund looks different because this is an operating general fund number. Doesn't include all the transfers that are going through. That's the difference from the last resolution to this one. With the general fund, the EDA, and our debt service all in there, it brings our total tax levy to $1,477,514, which is a $10,000, pretty close to subtraction from our 2017 budget, or a decrease of 0.64%. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions pertaining to our tax levy.
Bobby, explain to me the levy requirement and then the adjustments in the general obligation bonds.
In terms of the general fund, and why is there an operating general fund and then?
No, in this resolution where
Yep.
you have, be it further resolved that the debt service, and I was trying to understand and I ran out of time, but you have these levy requirements, and I'm talking specifically about 2016A general obligation for water, and I'm assuming it was street,
Yeah, yep.
or it was well and street.
Welland Street, that is
You have
correct.
$42,391,000 levy requirement, but is this additional monies that have to be appropriated for this particular general obligation bond for 2018, which now makes it $80,000?
Yes.
Okay, simple enough.
Yep.
Looking for a motion to approve Resolution 17-1218-03, the 2018 final tax levy.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember DeLuca, second by Councilmember Broda. Any further discussion?
Madam Mayor, I would just like to say that I was very proud of this staff and council for working through a budget and a levy this year that resulted in the residents of this city seeing a decrease in their tax levy. That is relatively unheard of in Hennepin County. We did it. We kept our services going. We keep our taxes as reasonable as we can for our residents. That's what we're here for.
I echo that. Everyone did a great job.
All right.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Aye.
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0.
Next item of business is Resolution 17-1218-04, the 2018 Fire Department budget.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Part of the teamwork between the City of Maple Plain and the City of Independence is we both jointly make up what is known as the Maple Plain Fire Department. So this budget before you was crafted. There's a number of different moving pieces that make up this number that you see before you of $418,285. There's money paid in by both the City of Maple Plain and the City of Independence. The City of Maple Plain did see a deduction in the amount of money that they're paying into the partnership as a result of what makes up this $418,285. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions pertaining to the fire department and the budget or the process of how that is created.
Looking for that motion for the 2018 Fire Department budget, Resolution 17-1218-04.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember DeLuca,
Second.
second by Councilmember Broda. And we'll do another roll call vote.
How about soon?
Oh, how about some discussion?
I would like
Would you
just a
like to have some
comment.
discussion?
I think once again, I want to call out our chief. This is his first year of being chief. And Justin, you've done a marvelous job with your team. You continue to provide service to the residents of both Maple Plain and Independence in a way that exemplifies what service is all about. You do it responsibly. You have a budget here that shows that, and I'm enthusiastically supportive of approving this tonight. Thank you.
Well said. Any other discussion or comments?
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Enthusiastically, aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0.
Next item of business is the Assistant Fire Chief selection for 2018 and through 2020. And we will turn that over to Chief McCoy. Oh, just kidding, Administrator.
I'll start and then turn it over to Justin, Chief McCoy. As City Council will find in their packet, there's a memo put together that just kind of outlined the process. As you guys may recall, as City Council, earlier this summer, we did approve a new procedure in terms of how the fire department selects not only the fire chief, but also Chief 2 and Chief 3. And so what you have right now is both the fire chief and myself followed the process of selecting Chief 2 and 3, and I'll have Chief McCoy talk more about the candidates and the process if he wishes.
Sure. Madam Mayor, members of the council, tonight I love standing behind the podium versus sitting behind the dais. So thanks for all your work and seeing through another great project ahead. Regarding to the Assistant Fire Chief selection process, Bobby and myself went through an interview process. We had 3 internal applicants that applied for 2 assistant chief positions. And we went through and interviewed and called some reference checks. And we have before you a recommendation for appointment for a 3-year position for assistant chief. Those appointments are Chris Doyle and Dave Eisinger. So I'll take any questions if you have it regarding the process and or the appointment. So.
Any questions for Chief McCoy? All right. With that, then, we are looking for a motion to approve the Assistant Fire Chief selections for 2018 through 2020 of Chris Doyle and Dave Eisinger as Chief 2 and Chief 3.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion, Councilmember Fay and Councilmember Cahill. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work with the process. All right. Next item of business is amendment to T-Mobile Water Tower rent agreement.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. What you have before you, and I'm trying to stretch my memory to remember if this T-Mobile agreement was passed this year or last year. So I'm not quite sure if you're all familiar with this agreement, but I'll briefly run through what this is. And this is a very good thing. So the first component is our water tower here outside. We lease out space on top to wireless cell phone providers to have satellites, radios, different transmission equipment so that we can use our cell phone by that provider. And we have a agreement with T-Mobile here in town specific to our water tower. This agreement was passed and written initially last year, it sounds like. And that was constructed by both our city attorney and T-Mobile, and of course with City Council's approval. Now there's a stipulation in that agreement, and that's why we're here today. And that is if T-Mobile wishes to add any equipment whatsoever onto the water tower, they are subject for a rent review and ultimately then a amendment to the agreement, which you have before you, to approve that. So a little background history for City Council. About 6-7 months ago, I received a letter from T-Mobile specifically just asking me to sign off on a maintenance deal that they're doing. Well, as I read the letter, it became clear that they were adding 3 additional radios onto the tower. They were replacing 3 and then adding 3. Well, it's the addition of the 3 that was the issue. And so as a result, staff kicked in and made T-Mobile come up with an escrow amount of money to pay to have a rent evaluation done on the water tower. They paid for all legal fees or all time taken by staff to do this work, and it was it came back saying that T-Mobile will experience an increase of $225 onto their monthly agreement for these 3 additional radios. With that being said, staff has before you this amendment to approve that increase and would recommend that that happens at this time. As a result, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the mayor and city council pertaining to this issue.
What's the existing rent that they're paying before this addition?
I think it was close to $1,000 a month.
Okay.
Just a comment, Bobby. Nice catch.
Mhm.
We ran into this on the radio towers over by the compost facility
Sure.
when they went in and were doing some repair without telling the city, and then all of a sudden there was more antennae on that tower than there were the month previous. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Oh,
All right. With that, looking for a motion for amendment to the T-Mobile Water Tower rent agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Cahill, second by Broda. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item of business is Resolution 17-1218-05, EvoGov website agreement.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. Resolution number 5. This is exciting. We've made it through council once now. No, what you have before you is, this was some direction that City Council provided staff in an October workshop pertaining to looking at website services. Staff went to the October 9th workshop with a list of different companies that provide a service of updating our website, and went through a lot of the pros and cons of these different companies, and as a result, City Council gave the direction to staff to move forward with Evo Government, or EvoGov website, to look at updating our website, what are the costs of working out an agreement and seeing what that would look like. Before you have a agreement that would do just that. There would be a project price of $6,510, which is on a cheaper end for doing websites in general. This is considerably cheaper by about $1,500 to our current service that we have, which is GovOffice. We also would be responsible for either paying a hosting price of $50 per month or a 1-year $500 per year fee for that service, or hosting fees for them to host our information, our website, just the service that they provide for us to operate our website. So staff would recommend paying that $500 fee up front to save that additional $100. But as a result of that, some components of the agreement that's nice. We do get some redesign work after 2 years we've been put together. The estimated time for completion of transitioning from our current website to this website is around 4 months. So the timeline's a little bit quicker than maybe what we talked about in October, which is nice. There's unlimited storage, and our current content would also be migrated with this website. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions pertaining to the EvoGov website agreement resolution.
Bobby, why did this project take a life of itself on, and all of a sudden there was almost $600 worth of legal review fees on a contract versus sending an RFP out that said we want website service, specify the parameters, and vendors would have responded to that? How did it get this way?
Well, I think regardless of if you go out for an RFP or if you do it the way that we've did it, there's going to be legal fees, and regardless of just the information that we send out, putting together an RFP is a pretty substantial time, and that can take a lot of staff time to do that in legal fees just to put those documents together initially. I think it's pretty close to a wash, if anything, where staff looked out and said, look, we need to get the direction from council is we haven't been extremely excited with the website services that we've been receiving. Let's see if we can get some research together and look at alternative options. That was done, and then that's where we went to the workshop initially on October 9th. Is there a rhyme or reason why we didn't do an RFP instead of doing it this way? The simple answer is no. That was just the operating procedure that we took with this deal. If council would like us to go through an RFP process, we'd be certainly welcome to doing that.
Well, I think you're missing my point, Bobby. It's, how does a $6,000 contract have $600 worth of legal review fees to it? That just seemed excessive.
Yeah, no, in terms of...
Maybe it is what it is. But
Yeah, it's a deal where we want to make sure that before we sign an agreement with a company for an extended period of time, we want to make sure that we're getting the best deal. And quite frankly, language, may, will, a lot of technical language, that does help us. As tedious as it is, it's a good process to go through, and it does ultimately have positive outcomes for the city to do it that way. And I know it's kind of frustrating, but there was some back and forth between EvoGov and the city in trying to get the language of this contract the way that we wanted it to be. And that's ultimately the result of it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Looking for a motion for Resolution 17-1218-05 EvoGov website agreement.
So moved.
Moved by Cahill. Looking for a second.
Second?
Second by Broda. Any further discussion? I just would like it noted